Evening, Yorktown, and welcome to the Town Board meeting for Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we can bow our heads in prayer to give thanks for living in a country, in a community that allows us to gather in this way. Tonight we want to keep in our thoughts and prayers, especially the workforce of the town of Yorktown. We'll be saying more about this shortly, but needless to say, a reminder, we often pray for our first responders, but I think tonight it's important for us to pray for our entire workforce, especially those men and women who find themselves on the roads, whether for the highway department, the water department, our parks and rec department, sewer department. And we pray for their safety, we pray for their well-being, and we thank them for their service to our community. Tonight we will hold a special moment of silence right now for Jake
Arcara.
Dave, do you want to say something?
We suffered a terrible loss September 14th, a week ago today, when one of our own at Highway was run down, when a resident decided they couldn't wait any longer, went around the flagman, thought they had their foot on the brake, and unfortunately didn't, and struck down a 28-year-old young man. To give you an idea, he survived by his mother, Kelly, whom he loved. It's a 28-year-old young man that went on vacation with his mom. And every time he rode by her dentist's office, he would honk his horn twice. His father, Jack Arcara, his sister and brother-in-law, Amanda and George, a little niece and nephew who adored him, Marina and Vinny, his grandmother, Joan, who every Sunday he would pick her up, take her shopping, and then take her out to brunch. 28-year-old young man. His fiancée, Kelly, who was the love of his life. Katie. Can't see that far. I'm getting old. Who was the love of his life. And his Siberian Husky, Gunner. And, we say this because we want people to realize that we're not out there trying to inconvenience you. We're out there trying to stay safe, do a job. These aren't millionaires out there. These are hardworking men and women who will go out in the middle of a snowstorm when everybody else is hunkered down and having a glass of Chardonnay, who will go out there in a summer hurricane when trees are falling all around us to make sure our roads are open for emergency service vehicles. So we do consider ourselves the first line of defense with respect to weather-related events. So I just ask everyone to, just slow down a bit and try to keep Jake's family in your prayers. Thank you.
So we'll bow our heads in a moment of silence for Jake, Arcara, and our family over at the Highway Department during this difficult time. Thank you. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Matt.
Introductions. We'll start to my right.
Good evening, Diana Quast, Town Clerk.
Good evening, Tom Diana, Councilman, Deputy Supervisor.
Matt Slater, Town Supervisor.
Ed Lachman, Councilman.
Councilman Sergio Esposito.
Luciana Howitt, Councilwoman.
Dave Paganelli, Superintendent of Highway.
Adam Rodriguez, Town Attorney.
Dave, is there more that you wanted to say tonight?
I think that sums it up. I think if, certainly nothing good could come of this. The only thing, and we were very fortunate that we had over 80 trucks, in addition to town trucks. Every municipality in Westchester County sent a vehicle up to give Jake a send-off. And the overall sentiment was, could have been any of us, could have been any of our people.
Yep.
It's just, I think that, everybody recognizes emergency responders and things like that. And I think that town workers fall through the cracks, that they don't realize we're out there and people are in a hurry and they're rushing here and rushing there. And show them a little respect. Well, you and I spoke about it. Moving forward, when we do any road work, we will be shutting down those roads. So be prepared for delays. We're not doing it to aggravate you, but you know what? We will never allow something like this to ever happen again. So that's our plan at this point.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
It's been a very difficult week for our workforce, for this town board, for everyone who's part of our family. Jake was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Our highway department is really hurting for losing one of their own. And it's not just the highway department. I mean, you have to remember that all of our entire labor force, especially during the winter, they come together as one to plow our roads, salt our roads. As Dave said, whether it's a bluebird day, like it was a week ago today,
Yep.
or if there's Hurricane Isaias or one of our monster snowstorms, these are the men and women who respond. And these are the men and women who work almost 50 hours straight, depending on the situation, to put our community back together. And right now, it's a very difficult time. A very difficult time for our workforce, a very difficult time for our department heads. And I do want to thank those who have reached out to my office, offering their condolences. I know Dave's received
We've had, so much
quite a
support
bunch as well.
from the community.
And that's one of the great things about Yorktown. It's what makes us a community. We're always there for each other. We're always there to rally behind each other. And we're always there to pick each other up when we don't think we can go on. And many of us felt that way at some point in this past week. But many of you have helped us get through this tragedy. As Dave said, we're going to be making some changes. I think the most significant one being road closures when there's road work. Because the only thing that we think of now that would have prevented this tragedy was a road closure or a Jersey barrier. And to make sure that we never have to go through this again, we're going to make every effort and take the right steps to protect our workers, to protect our workforce. So I know not everybody in the community understood what went on last Wednesday, but I hope you take some time to learn about Jake and learn about the great person that he was. I can tell you from a personal level, it's really forced me to reflect on a lot of things. And I think one of the things that I'm taking away from Jake that I just admire of him so much, you just can't take it for granted. You can't take this life for granted. You can't take tomorrow for granted. Jake and I had an awful lot in common, believe it or not. Jake's relationship with his grandmother really hit home. And you can't take for granted the fact that tomorrow you'll be able to go see her. Tomorrow you'll be able to have breakfast with her. Tomorrow, because there may not be tomorrow. Jake went to work like he did every day. And tomorrow never came. And so I really hope we can reflect on that, reflect on his life. He had his whole life ahead of him. He has a beautiful fiance. I mean, just an incredible human being. They were planning their wedding. It was supposed to be, I think, a year ago, almost this weekend. Again, taking for granted things that you just don't have control over. And so I just hope we all reflect on that. And again, to Jake's family, his mother, to his father, his stepfather, his sister, and just the incredible army of friends that we got to meet and learn more about Jake from. Again, we offer our sincere condolences and sympathies during a time that I just can't even imagine them going through. So again, it's been a difficult week. We ask for your patience, ask for your understanding. if you're Sierra guys on the street and they're in a truck, slow down. How about you stop and thank them? That'd go a real long way. You know, was it Friday, Dave? I think it was Friday. Our water department went up to the scene where the accident occurred to try to help the highway department clean up. There was some drainage pipe that was laying on a resident's lawn that was left there. Same exact spot. And their truck got sideswiped. Same place. You know, like I said, you see, and Monday morning, I'm driving down Granite Springs Road, right by Sparkle Lake, where there's that blind curve. R&R is out there. It was like the Autobahn. People just flying all around them. My guys are outside the truck. I stopped. I didn't care if someone hit me because those guys were outside the truck just doing their jobs. And so it just really brings it to a fine point. It really brings it to a head. And like I said, when you see Yorktown workers on the street, whether they're highway department employees, sewer employees, whether it's the police department, whoever it might be, instead of hitting the gas, hit the brake. Say thank you. Because they're out there for you. And I think we've forgotten that. The week didn't start so well either, nor has it ended well. There was an incident over at the sewer department where 2 youth actually found a truck with keys in it, cut a hole through the fence of the sewer department, and brought the truck to Hancock, New York. Has anyone ever heard of Hancock, New York? I had to look it up. It's right on the Pennsylvania border. So that's how our week started. And it only went downhill from there. And I thought that was a bad moment.
Yeah.
And I'll take that incident every single day if it would bring Jake back. We've been trying to continue some of our initiatives despite the pain and agony that we've been going through. I want to thank, we have with us our comptroller in the back, Pat Caparel, and Janelle McNeil, our deputy. They've been running point on this New York Forward grant. Feel free to stop by Town Hall. They were over at the San Gennaro Feast on Sunday. They've been making themselves available because we're trying to organize a grant application to reimagine the downtown Heights, something that obviously this last couple of years has been a focus of town government, and this is only adding to that. We got some great ideas and great input from members of the community. We continue to solicit those, I think, through the end of the week. Is that correct, Pat? Tomorrow? I'm sorry. I forget it's Wednesday. It's yes. So through tomorrow, which would be Thursday, the 22nd, if you have some ideas, feel free to stop by and share them with us here at Town Hall or contact Janelle McNeil over in the Finance Department. Quick update on fluoride. It looks as if our Department of Health inspection will be set for October 13th. And on the 6th will be our first, we'll call it a test run, giving us a week before DOH comes for the final inspection. We've received a number of questions from residents since Friday. The Senior Advisory Committee met. There were a lot of questions regarding STAR rebate checks. If anyone is questioning whether they are due a STAR rebate check or they're expecting it and they haven't received it, please contact the assessor's office. You can call Kim Penner at 914-962-5722, extension 227, and she can provide that information. As a reminder for residents in Section 4, bulk trash is on Monday. And so if you're in Section 4, you're going to see the refuse and recycling department out there. And like we just talked about, stop and say thanks. They're doing a great service for us. This past weekend, I also spent time with the Putnam Northern Westchester Women's Resource Center because they had their annual walk over here at FDR Park. You know, they're really a great organization that provides such incredible services for victims and their families of domestic abuse. I think that we really want to grow their footprint here in Yorktown because even though it has Putnam in their name, they are Putnam Northern Westchester, and they're right down the road. If anyone ever needs them, their number is 845-628-9284. That's 845-628-9284. And there's a 24-hour crisis line if anyone does need them in an emergency. That 24-hour crisis line is 845-628-2166. Again, for the Putnam Northern Westchester Women's Resource Center for victims of domestic abuse and their family, 24-hour crisis line is 845-628-2166. And the last thing I just wanted to touch upon, this weekend at FDR Park is our Run for Recovery with Drug Crisis in Our Backyard. Steve and Sue Salamone, two of the strongest and most incredible advocates anyone can meet. This organization has done a lot of work in the town of Yorktown over the years. I know they partnered with you, Councilman Diana.
Yes, they did.
For Narcan training and for help with our canines.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's their annual run at FDR, and that takes place on Saturday morning. So a great opportunity to support a great organization. And so again, we thank our residents for their help and their compassion during these difficult days. And again, to our highway superintendent, know how much we care about you and the men and women of Highway.
Thank you.
And we're here for you.
Thank you.
Councilman Diana.
Thank you, Supervisor. About 2 weeks ago, I talked about, and the supervisor talked about, the school buses when they stop. Those little red 8-sided signs on the side are not a suggestion. They're state law that they're backed up by. We talked about traffic safety a little bit that day,
Yep.
and to give the people on the side of a road the break. Give them a little break to stop. Just stop. Slow way down. You got your highway department. You got your water department, your sewer department, your police, your fire, your tow truck drivers that are out there, your garbage guys that are out there. Who's more vulnerable than these folks that are out there that are doing a job for everybody within the earshot of my voice? These state laws are there for a reason, and they're to keep those ladies and gentlemen safe. We lost a wonderful individual last week, and my heartfelt sorrow goes out to his whole entire family and all his friends, along with his brothers and sisters on the highway department and throughout the rest of the town force, which leads me into my next statement. I am very proud of all of our working departments, all of our employees in this town that came together during this very, very, very trying time. To think that they're just a bunch of civil servants is an understatement. They were like angels for this young man. So, with that being said, I don't have a lot more, but I want to see everybody remember what happened out there today. Everything happens in Yorktown eventually, but nobody expected anything so tragic as the death of a young man who had his whole life in front of him. And I don't care if he was 28 or 88. This never should have happened. Once again, I'm very proud of our whole entire staff for coming together and acting as a family, which is what we are. We're all part of the Yorktown family. We all know sometimes our family is dysfunctional, but we come about when it counts, and it counted this week. I thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman Lackman.
I will just echo the thank you, but even from a point of view of how it helped me in dealing with this, we go by the highway garage every day with our dog. Usually about the time everyone's pulling out, they usually honk, wave. Always saw Jake and Nick and their team going out. and it was very, very
Emotional.
yeah, very emotional, and especially there are people who work at Highway that went to school with my daughter, and they're that age, and it's just tragic to see Jake's life cut so short. But I will also thank God that he had the opportunity to affect so many people in such a positive way during that time. So God bless his family and all of our employees in the town of Yorktown. I will also, ironically, same point as Councilman Diana, but just a little different twist. The speeding on the roads, the not paying attention to people. Actually, I was on the phone with the supervisor when he saw someone step out into a crosswalk and someone didn't stop and clipped the person, knocked him down. People don't pay attention. I do walk through the town pretty much every morning. There's some people who stop. Some people have no idea you stop at a crosswalk. They just blow through. They don't care if you're in the road or not. And it's just, today we were walking up Summit Street, and there's a blind spot. Someone in a big white SUV came over that hill hard enough for their tires to leave the ground a little bit and come down. It's like, this is a street with kids going to school, waiting for buses, people walking their dogs. So really very, very disheartening that even after something so tragic, it just keeps going and going and going. So please pay attention, and especially now because it gets dark earlier and kids are out there playing after school. It's hard to see, and with all the distracted driving going on. Matter of fact, the lady who was driving the SUV, I could see she was talking, probably through a hands-free set, but still distracted. So please, pay attention. Something like this, you don't realize how big the ripples are when a stone hits the water in an instance like this. And I think, we need to step back on that. Then I will, something a little more lighthearted. We have the traveling wall coming to our area. If anyone is familiar with that or not, but there is a replica of the Vietnam Wall, the memorial wall, with all of the names of everyone that goes from town to town, and it will be at the Putnam County the Putnam County Veterans Park in Kent, New York, being brought to there through the Putnam County Joint Veterans Council. And the traveling wall is pretty much a replica of the one down in Washington, D.C. I've been to both. It's very very interesting, which isn't really the right word that I'm looking for, but to see the names, to be able to look back, and actually the wall is set up by date that people were killed in action. And I think one of the most poignant experiences I had was my second time at the wall in Washington, D.C. was during the last honor flight, and my veteran that I was with, Tony, wanted to go and look up a friend who had passed away, killed in action in Vietnam. And when he found his name on the wall, you could still see the emotion, you could still see that. And unfortunately, I do not think that our Vietnam vets were welcomed back properly. But I do see two that I know served in Vietnam. And Mike, I believe you are also a Vietnam era veteran?
No.
You are not. Oh, I thought you were considered Vietnam era. Era. Right. Yes. Well, Carl and Jim, thank you, gentlemen, for your service, and welcome home. Oh, John, that's right, John. I'm sorry. And our
He's wearing it.
I don't have my glasses on.
I didn't go over there though. I was just in during that time.
Right.
But you did not know where you would be when you signed those papers, did you?
They activated the unit that I was in. They let us go out early so they could train them up in Camp Jerome in October to go to Vietnam in the weather, and I missed it by a month.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your service to our country, and welcome home. That's that's it for me for today.
Okay. Councilman Esposito?
So we take things for granted, right? And I think what I learned this week is, just to take a second look at things. So I tell my kids all the time, take your baseball stuff out of the car. Do not leave your baseball stuff in the car. So what happened? So today, this afternoon, I got one shoe on, and I'm trying to get dressed to come here, and my son announces that he left his baseball mitt in my other son's car. And so he called him, and my other son was going to pick up a friend, which was by McDonald's on the 202, and he said, leave the glove in his driveway. I was so mad because my younger son's not driving yet. So now I got a million things going on. The phone's ringing. Clients are calling me for work. It's late afternoon. I'm trying to get dressed. I was so upset. I was angry. I was angry. And I get in the car, and I'm really mad at my son Luke, and we end up schlepping all the way to where they left the glove, and guess what? The glove wasn't there. They forgot to leave it. So I stopped. I took a second look, and I just started cracking up. My son thought I was nuts, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "You know what? I'm sorry. I mean, the fact that my son left his glove in a car is inconsequential. Look at what happened this week.
Yep.
My heart goes out to Jake's family. My heart goes out to the other family too. I'm sure they're suffering too, and so I think my message is, stop, take a breath, take a second look. Whatever you're upset about, whatever you're in a rush for, it's probably not that important given what could happen or the fact that Jake never made it home, So just stop, think about it, take a second look, take a deep breath, enjoy it, enjoy life, enjoy the ride. I am going to change the subject. I feel awkward doing it, but I do have an event coming up this weekend. It's called the Cops versus the Kids. It's a great event. It's our 6th annual event. What we do is we raise money for kids with life-threatening diseases. And I was actually considering, postponing it, but I don't think that's what anybody would have wanted. So we're going ahead with it. I really appreciate everybody's help and support on it. I have the flyer here. It's a baseball game, and the Yorktown Police Department are taking on the 12U Yorktown Athletic Club Heat. So it's the Cops versus the Kids. It's a great time. We have Shane Spencer coming. And he's going to be signing autographs and all that stuff. All the money goes to a retreat called Camp Sunshine. It's in Casco, Maine. And for $2,500, we get to sponsor a family. They'll take you anyway, but if we sponsor the family, they kind of like skip the line. And so basically what happens is you go up to Camp Sunshine. They're one of the only retreats that cater to the entire family because they feel that the entire family is impacted if you have a child with a life-threatening disease. So what you do is you go up there, and they usually have specific weeks for kids suffering from specific ailments. And so this way you're together with people that are going through the same emotional stuff and medical stuff and everything like that. They have all sorts of rides, games. They set you up in a hotel-style suite, and it's no charge to the family. And so it's a great cause. It is on September 24th, this Saturday. It's going to start at 4:30. It's at Legacy Baseball Fields. So if you guys can make it, I would really appreciate it. It's a good time. First pitch is probably going to be about 5:15. We're going to have food there. There's going to be rides. There's going to be music. It's going to be all sorts of cool stuff. And of course, it's going to be a fun time with the police playing the kids. Maybe the Cops will win this year. What do you think? No? We'll see. They typically lose. I don't know what's going on with that. So anyway, it's the Cops versus the Kids. You can check out my Facebook page, and you could get more details there. We also have a really great event. There's the Jefferson Valley Market, right, John? The Valley Market. They are celebrating their 50-plus anniversary, and so that's going to be on Monday, 4 o'clock. At the Valley Market, and we'll have a ribbon cutting for them too. So if you guys could join us then, I really appreciate it. But again, On a final note, and to just reiterate my point, stop and take a second look, please. Thank you.
Councilwoman Luciana Howard.
Yes. Okay. So I just want to start by letting everyone know that tomorrow we are having our first mobile pantry that's been partnering with Feeding Westchester, located here in our Shrub Oak Pool parking lot. That's the one that's located at 3800, so 3800 Sunnyside Street. And it'll be right there in the parking lot. So please share it with the community and share it with friends. Maybe they can share it with someone that they thought maybe would want to go by. It's a big event with our food safety task force. They're like very formal how they say that. But it's been something they've been trying to get off the grid for a long time. And I think that now that we've been put into the mobile food distribution calendar for Feeding Westchester, you'll be seeing their big truck more often. In regards to this tragedy, my heart goes to not only Jake, as I pray for him and for where he's going to end up now, but also for everyone who's had a relationship with him. I meet you where you are. My office is open for any type of consultation, free of charge, for anyone in the community, especially the highway department. I'd like to hold space for them. His relationship with everyone's going to be individual. The tragedy that they went through is not something that I don't think that any of us can ever describe. It's a loss. Yes, it's a time to pause. But just like the food pantry or the parks or taking our children to events, I think we all need to slow down a little bit. We're missing out on like those little bit of moments, those connections, even knowing people. I mean, there's people that believe in destiny. My beliefs are there are things that can be avoided if we just all actually presence ourselves and connect with those around us. So in honor of Jake, I bow my head not only to his sacrifice and what it's going to teach this community, but also in the awareness that it's brought to all of us that each one of our lives is incredibly valuable and that we have to withhold and cherish it. So when you're angry, just think about how little or how minute it actually is. I kind of came to Westchester to slow down. I thought the city was feeding my energy. And now with all this pain, I think that I could feel it, and I know it's scary, but I invite everyone to feel how painful it is, because I think there's a bit of growth there in the human element of us. And with that being said, this is not something I'll ever forget.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So we have a proclamation recognizing National Hispanic Heritage Month. We can read it as follows. Whereas the observance of National Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America, and whereas the observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. And whereas the day of September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for Latin American countries Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Yorktown recognizes and celebrates National Hispanic Heritage Month.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we'll invite John McMullen to the podium.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh, I said whip out like that.
Departure. September 19, 2022, my hummingbirds have apparently packed their bags and headed south following the heat. That means my chipmunks and groundhogs will soon disappear into their holes for the winter. This migration will leave us only with those birds who do not seek vacation in the south and squirrels and deer to enjoy for the next 6-7 months. It also means that the election craziness will soon be heating up, if not in my town or assembly district, but certainly at the state and national level. Hopefully 3 days after Election Day, November 8, 2022, the craziness will subside as we observe Veterans Day, November 11, 2022, when the nation should come together to honor the sacrifice of those who gave so much. If we cannot remember the key word in our name is united, we will have little to be thankful for 2 weeks later. Could I read another quick thing? The book came out, an anthology of poetry by 100 poet laureates. And I wound up being in one with one much lighter, and we can find it on where it is. Will be. They did this alphabetically. McLevin. A poem is not a jump shot. I've done at least one thing perfectly in my life. I have faked my man, going up in the air, and got nothing but net. Perfect. Now I write poetry, and no matter how happy I am with a poem, it is never perfect. It can always be tweaked, have words added or cut or changed, never fully finished, never perfect. But sometimes I have to pause, to stop, and just get poems out the door. That's this submission.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
On a personnel matter, we're going to appoint Paula Alicia to the position of assessment clerk in the assessor's office. We have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And next we will go to courtesy of the floor. As a reminder, as always, folks don't need to wait to courtesy of the floor if they have an issue or concern. I know today Highway Superintendent Paganelli and I were tackling a stop sign issue off of White Hill Road. So these things continue through the week, not just because of courtesy of the floor. Our contact information is listed prominently on the town's website. You can visit yorktownny.org to find contact information to any department head, any elected official, such as our highway superintendent, our town clerk, the entire town board. You can always call my office directly at 914-962-5722, extension 200, or email me directly at mslater@yorktownny.org. As always, as a reminder, for those coming to the podium tonight, we ask that you keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. Our town clerk will have the countdown. Is that right there?
Yep.
Okay. With the cuckoo chime?
No alarm.
With no alarm. But you'll have 3 minutes. We ask that you keep your comments directed at the board and respectful. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Susan Siegel. Okay. I want to thank you for your continuing efforts to get the best possible contract for our garbage refuse. I know it's been difficult, and you've gone through multiple options. I had a chance to look at the bid specs for the contract, the bid that's out now. There are 11 different options. As you said, it was kind of a smorgasbord. And I do have a few questions, and I know that the bids are not due back until next week. But before you decide on which is the best price, I'd appreciate if you would respond to some questions that affect not just me, but thousands of other residents. Of the 11 options, 4 of them say they will exclude multifamily complexes. And according to one of the appendices in the bid specs, there are approximately 39 complexes throughout town that are considered multifamily because they have sorry, I lost for words, a basic collection area. It's not curbside. And they range in size. They're both condominiums and rental housing, and they range from the ones in Mohegan off Lexington Avenue. My gut says it's over 1,000 units there. I live in Jefferson Village. We're roughly 1,000 split into 11 different areas. There are the 2 senior citizen rental units, Wynwood Oaks and Beaver Ridge, and a lot of the smaller ones. So my question is, as you go through the options, okay, if you're going to like an option that excludes multifamily, then what does that mean for all of those multifamily complexes? Will they have to contract on their own? And if so, if you're going to award the bid, let's say in mid-October, will all of those 39 multifamily complexes have to race around to find their own contractor starting January 1st and go through all of that process? So that's one question. The second question is many of the options would be for the one-armed bandit, which obviously makes sense because it reduces the labor costs for the vendor. My question is, if you select vendor X for the contract because he's got the best price, does that mean that vendor X will have enough of the one-armed bandit trucks available to begin servicing us with one-armed bandits as of January 1st? Or will they have to order some? And if they have to order trucks, as you all know, the supply chain issue, Dave has dealt with that, okay, then what will happen as of January 1st? I don't assume that a vendor has several one-armed bandit trucks just sitting around waiting for a new contract.
Your time's up, Susan.
Okay, and also, can you explain what the
Thank you, Susan.
totes are and who is going to have to pay for these?
Thank you,
And can
Susan.
you explain
Susan, your time is up.
the
Thank
Reich
you very much.
the Reich contract and what
Thank you very much,
adversary
Susan.
action that is for?
Appreciate your
Thank you.
question. It's always good to hear from you. Next.
The Councilman Esposito mentioned the Valley Market. I'm very happy with them going to do something for it. I'm concerned about the traffic because that's 4 p.m. On East Main Street where we have people racing to get to 6 End to get to Mahopac. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't have some police there, and B, there's a big parking lot that's closed across from the Valley Market, and they've been trying to sell the land. If some arrangement could be made to open that for cars to park there, that might work out. That might work out well. So they're my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor?
Dan Strauss. I've known Dave for many years. I've worked with him, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry for the loss to the members of the Highway Department, who I also know. You can talk all you want about speeding, and people are going to speed tomorrow. They're just going to go. And unless there's a change in the culture of this country, it's going to go on. And I mentioned before, one time, collateral damage is exactly what happened. And it's very sad. That's all. It's cut and dry. Unless there are consequences for the people that you say speed and act like pigs, like someone dumped garbage today right in the middle of town. Someone picked it up. A truckload. I left town that way. Obviously, someone called it in or someone picked it up, which I appreciate. Because I get the feeling sometimes it's leave it to Dan. You know, I'm going to go and do it. So I appreciate that. But I also have one other thing I'm going to mention. This involves Dave, and it's at the yard, and you probably know about it. There was an altercation between a bicyclist and a driver where it goes right down. They go down there at 40 miles an hour, the bicyclists, and I know I'm going to have every bicyclist probably in the country or in Westchester saying, oh, Dan's got something to say about that. Practically every person in the car stops. The bicyclists fly. Dave has tried to remedy the situation. He called the county. They have barriers that are supposed to be put up. And if they won't put them up, I'm asking you simply, and I'll go and help you, put up barriers, just like you said would be at construction sites. Put 2 barriers on either side. And if you didn't know, those are not even supposed to stop accidents. They're supposed to stop cars from going onto the, which is so ridiculous. And that's the county. And I talked to the county about it, too, about 3 years ago. And Dave knows that. We worked together, tried to get this done. You should put barriers up tomorrow because I do not want to be, and there are other drivers who do not want to be accountable if they slam into a bicyclist because of no fault of their own when he comes flying down the hill. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Strauss. Anyone else?
Anthony Pichette. It's hard, like, hearing what everyone was talking about, and I thought I'd have something great to say when I came up here, but it's just terrible. I just got back from vacation, and, talking about this before to everyone, and hearing what happened, when I talked to you the first time, when I first came to this town, you described this exact incident. You talked about this exact thing happening. And I remember you saying that. And I echo what the previous resident said about there has to be something done. This is not, if it's not, I know you said that, it will never happen. Maybe it won't happen to a town employee, but it could happen to someone else. It's very, once again, we all make it personal. We all talk about ourselves. I don't want to talk about, but I mean, just walking up and down my street. I have a blue car, a blue Jeep that flies by me while my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, is right in front of me. If my wife died, I would want action. I would do something. So, and even the guy's middle name is Anthony. I mean, I just once again, everyone knows how tough it is. And I mean, your anger, I feel what you were talking about, and just slow down. It's please slow down. No, damn it, slow down. Excuse my language. No. Do something. We as a town got to do something, because I can't think of a single thing that affects this town that comes from outside. We don't control ourselves as far as public safety. If there was someone walking around and had a gun in their hand, and they're flying by, nilly-willy with their gun, would people go, well, hopefully you stop using your gun in the future. Hopefully you put it away, and, oh, you shot someone. Oh, well, accidents happen. No, we wouldn't do that. And so I just coming to these meetings, the sincerity, the way you guys talk to everybody, I believe your sincerity, every single one of you when I've been talking to. So I just hope that something can be done. I was going to stay home and just watch the video, but just had to come and just say something. Just please, 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 please. I don't know how many times I can say it. Please do something, because I don't want it to happen to me. You don't want it to happen to someone you care about. Nobody wants it to happen to someone you care about. And if it did happen to someone you care about, and everyone, you do care about this individual. I'm not, but that's why it's so powerful, so if it was anybody in the town, everyone would react the same way, because that's how this community is. And I'm new, but I can feel that. I was walking down the street talking to people that are passing me, and cars are going by me, and this this older couple and this guy who just speaks his mind. He was like, "What the heck?" Screaming at the car, and I was like, "Thanks, that felt good. There's someone else on my side," but. I see my time's running out, but please, let's do something. Form a council. Just do something so something can change, because it is scary.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor?
Good evening. James Mecca, Columbia Court, Yorktown. I'm here to thank you, along with other veterans, for your request to send to the state legislator recognizing it's April 26th as Korean War Veterans Appreciation Day. I went to a wake today for Irving Breitbart, an Army Korean War veteran. While I was there, it was sad to realize that Irving and his family never got to go to a day where recognized him and his fellow Korean War veterans. Hold on, I wrote this down. With the help of other politicians like yourselves and the citizens of our and other communities, these heroes who fought in the forgotten war will be forgotten no more. Thank you very much for your support, and the veterans of this community and the older communities appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Courtesy of the floor. Anyone else would like to speak?
Motion to close courtesy of the floor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the board?
I'd like to address Mr. Strauss. Is that
Please.
all right?
Yeah, of course.
So, this event on Saturday, where there was a near accident with a bicyclist, ended up with one of our employees being abused. All right. A year ago, this past May, I had reached out to Westchester County. They had dropped off the columns and the gate. And, we'll get to it by October, which will be a year next month. So this is just a real quick thing that I sent to the Westchester County Parks on Saturday at 1:15. Hi, just had an incident on a bike path coming through our yard at 2200 Greenwood Street. Resident tried to assault bicyclist and my gatekeeper pulled them apart and was assaulted. Please try to get this fence up this week. So here's the response. I apologize, Dave. I will definitely speak to my director. Was the police notified? Yes, waiting for them now. We will be pressing whatever charges are available to us. So I guess as a result of this communication, they were there yesterday measuring. So from our lips to God's ears, they will have that done within the next week. Unfortunately, it takes something like this, like the situation, the horror with Jake, that we need to, push further. And as the gentleman said from Loader Road, we need to push further because once there's a tragedy, there's no going back. There's no, oh, sorry, should have paid attention. Oh, sorry, bicyclist got hit. I have 40 minutes of video here, and I know the bicyclists are going to hate you, so I'm going to absorb some of that. 40 minutes of video of people just blowing through those stop signs, never stopping. Sat up there for an hour on a Saturday, and every car did stop, and every bicyclist did not. So hopefully these barricades will funnel them into a narrower area where they can't just come zooming down, because it's an incline on both sides. They don't want to get off and walk their bike up the hill. They want to zoom along. So, it's hard to know what needs to be done and have to have other people in control of your destiny where, you don't do it yourself. I ultimately, when I spoke to the gentleman, I said, I'll take 2 Jersey barriers. I'll block that bicycle path altogether. Don't care. We'll not have somebody get killed there. I will block it on both ends of that hill. People could turn around and go back where they came from. You know what? If we don't take action, we are remiss by not taking action. So, but let's keep our fingers crossed.
And I came with you to the yard when you called.
Yes, yeah. We won't show the pictures of Billy with his shirt ripped off because that could be a little unsettling.
It was. But we did offer to do a resolution tonight to send to the county executive because it's to your point, you can't wait anymore.
No.
How many more examples do we need? But thankfully Dave reported today that they were there and didn't feel the need for the resolution because the town board was prepared to do it. Yep. But again, we recognize, and Dave's been doing a very good job trying to advocate for those safety parameters to be put into place, as we've seen in other parts of the bike path.
Right. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I just wanted to address Jim. Yeah, the Korean War Veteran Appreciation Day. I think I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's about time. And I understand that Irv Breitbart was never recognized, but I know his service was appreciated, and I got to tell you, my heart goes out to his family too.
The comments?
Well, I thank you for the correction on the date, Jim. I won't forget it since it's my wedding anniversary. So
better not.
No. I'm good. Actually, Friday is the 32nd anniversary of my first date with Carol. So.
Oh, you're romantic.
Yes, yeah. No, we know that stuff. So, but thank you. It's much needed. The first time on the honor flight, my veteran was a Korean War vet who was part of my veteran social at the country house, Bert Houseworth, and he passed away in 2020. But Bert was like in tears the whole time because it was just so overwhelming being on that flight and the gratitude and seeing people. But a quick story: we were at the Korean Monument. And they also have a wall, and we were looking at the wall, and there was a Marine gunnery sergeant who was helping on the trip, and he was having a conversation with Bert, and all of a sudden a group of tourists came up and started bowing to Bert and shaking his hand, and we were all bewildered until the last person came up, and he said, "We're all from South Korea." and we just wanted to express our gratitude and our thanks. And it was just so overwhelming and touching. But I do believe Irv was on the honor flight, so at least he was able to experience that. So, but my dad was a Korean War vet as well, so it's very important. Thank you.
Levine, you're in?
With regard to the garbage contract and that, the one-armed bandits, etc., no, they don't have these trucks laying around. Where they're going to get them, where they're going to pull them from, that's up to them. How they're going to work with the vendors for the totes, whether they're going to be purchased by the town, by the resident, or by the garbage company and distributed, it remains to be seen. We're waiting for that bid to come back and see what our vendors may have to say about it.
The totes, the question of the totes are the bins. So if you have a one-armed bandit, you have totes that are provided so that it hooks up into the garbage can and it lifts it up and over and dumps it itself. That's the automated way that they are moving to garbage. To Councilman Diana's point, that's going to be part of the bid process, whether or not they have them in stock, whether or not they have to go purchase them, whether or not they're going to have them in time for the first of the year. So we won't be able to give an answer for that until we get the actual bids back. On the multifamily complexes, and unfortunately our refuse foreman's not here, but as Phil Marino had spoken of earlier, fact remains the town has been paying for the actual bins for multifamily complexes, which, considering the fact that multifamily complexes pay a fraction of what single-family homes pay, we're trying to level the playing field so that multifamily and single-family get the same services for their tax dollars. No one is paying for single-family homeowners. Single-family homeowners have to pay for their own garbage cans. That's not happening with the multifamily units. And so that bill is north of $500,000 that taxpayers are paying for multifamily bins. Simply put, one of the options is for the multifamily complexes to contract directly with the carting company for those bins so that the taxpayers aren't paying for those garbage cans, which is where they put all of their collective garbage, and then have the garbage or the carting company come pick them up. It's a $500,000 nut, and that cost has grown because even though they're paying only a fraction of what single-family homes pay, they are still accumulating the same amount of garbage. And so then we get the phone calls here at Town Hall, and Councilman Diana, you know this, of the multifamily complexes asking for additional bins because the 4-yarder or the 6-yarder is not holding all of the garbage. Taxpayers pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to level the playing field because taxpayers aren't paying for single-family homeowners as garbage cans, meaning that it's not coming out of the refuse district. And that is estimated to save us close to $500,000 on the contract. And again, all they're talking about are the actual dumpsters. That's it. And it's only an option because we want to, again, provide as many options as was discussed with our refuse foreman here so that we make the best decision for our residents to maintain their services and protect local taxpayers.
And just to be clear, it's not the actual service itself. It's just the bins that we're talking about.
Correct.
We're not going to be taking services away where we're not collecting garbage from multifamily units.
No, they have common charges and managing agent and...
If I'm correct, I think Phil had mentioned that it's not all multifamily units, right? So some multifamily units are already contracting for their own bins or purchasing their own bins, and some aren't. So it's kind of like all over the place, and this will make it one uniform thing. Everybody, multifamily, residents, everybody's going to have to get their own bins. That's it. And that's what we're looking at, because as the supervisor stated, it's costing the town an extra $500,000 a year. Okay, so that's what I think we're talking about there.
Thanks. And as for the Reich attorneys at law, that is for a bankruptcy proceeding. As we all know, the parent company of the JB Mall, whose name is escaping me right now.
Washington.
Washington
Prime.
Prime filed bankruptcy, and that was a long time ago. And so that is part of that bankruptcy proceeding. So we have the correct legal counsel representing the town in that proceeding.
I just want to state, if it's okay, if you're done, Matt. I just want to address, first of all, including Susan's curiosity around the garbage contract. This community is incredibly impactful, and every one of you that came up had something that was heartfelt to say, and I applaud the amount of compassion that Dave came here to speak, because I'm aware of how much grief he and his family are going through, and his work family included. But I love that, and I love that you've now addressed Susan, and I love the idea of reaching out to the neighbor for the parking lot to maybe be able to make it a little bit of a safer venue, since that parking lot's not getting used. I thought that was, it can't hurt to ask, right? That's still really nice. Dan, your passion and your support, first of all, your support in the community does not go unlooked. You're famous. But with that being said, the connection that you have with Mr. Paganelli resided with me. There was teamwork, there was effort, and there was continuing effort. Even though you no longer work there, it's still continuing effort. And Anthony, I completely hear you. A lot of people put plans in place, and they say all the right things, and they create the checklist, and they make the list, and then there's zero follow through. That can't happen. If we have any say, and I know that we'll do the best we can with all our department heads and with the community and the police department, I think that those hot tickets got to go out, and there's got to be bigger consequences to those fast drivers. And I know that there is that fear of like, yes, we're going to take this one step further, but as you know, an advocate for walkability, some places in our town are walkable, some are not. But in front of your own home, it should be at least safe, right? Even if it doesn't have a sidewalk, it should be at least safe. So I do appreciate you coming and bringing your comments.
Also, just from Anthony's comments, just a reminder, we do have the Traffic and Safety Committee that meets.
Great.
Councilman Diane is on it. Highway Superintendent Paganelli is on it. Officer Rohr is on it.
Bill Bertram.
Bill Bertram is on there. And so we do, and you guys meet quite frequently to go over all the different questions or concerns that continue to be raised, whether it's requests for speed bumps or stop signs or
No parking.
Right. All those things. So
I also think there should be a consequence with the school, Matt. Like, like if you're caught speeding, and because sometimes it's the kids, right? So like you're caught speeding, then you can't bring your cool car to school. Like, I'm just saying, we got to get to the point where it goes full circle, because I know that at that 3 o'clock mark, after 2, that bell goes off. Those high schoolers are ready to get out. So we got to talk to your kids. Everyone's got to slow down.
Right. Any other comments from the board? We will continue.
Would you mind if I excuse myself?
By all means.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have a decision regarding the boutique hotels, Chapter 300-52. Mr. Grace is here on behalf of the applicant. Did you have anything to say, Mr. Grace?
Oh, just want to thank you and the planning department for all their hard work and reviewing it, and we hope that we get a positive action tonight. And if we do, then the next meeting we'll be asking that we refer the specific project to the planning board for to go through the approval process. But we again thank you. I'm being on your side of the table for years. I know these things don't come easy, but we appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. As a reminder, this is not a final approval for the hotel. This is a textual change within our code to provide the parameters by which such application can be reviewed and processed by our planning board. And so we can begin by adopting a negative declaration for local law amending Chapter 300-52 to add boutique hotels.
So moved.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? Very good. We'll move on to adopt local law amending Chapter 300 entitled Zoning by amending Article 7, Section 300-52 to add boutique hotel.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Madam Clerk, we good?
We gotta do a roll call.
You want a roll call vote?
Thank you. Search.
Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Okay. Supervisor Matthew Slater, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman John Mahana,
Aye.
Councilman Ed Lachman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Sergio Esposito, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Luciana Howard, how do you vote?
Aye. What if I said me? That wouldn't work
No.
then.
Say absent.
Thank you.
Very good. Motion carries. Law is adopted. We will move on to resolutions. We have a resolution from the Assessor's Office, as was asked, regarding the Reich and Reich PC Attorneys at Law. This is, again, specific bankruptcy proceeding that is ongoing, has been, and continues to be. So this authorizes the supervisor to sign a contract with Reich.
Right. And Reich.
One more right.
One more Reich. From the Engineering Department, a budget transfer for maintaining and repairing of a pump station. We're going to, from the Police Department, authorize the supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County to provide a positive youth development program. From the Town Board, do you need a roll call on this, or we're good? Just making sure. This is a site plan approval for Volta Charging LLC for the electric vehicle charging stations located at the Jefferson Valley Mall. I do want to add for the public and for the board that they did meet with the planning department regarding the size and scope of that pad, and they've were very kind enough to make the adjustments that we discussed at our last meeting.
Yep.
So all of that is included. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Thank you, Supervisor. I just want to offer our deepest condolences on behalf of the Volta team and Cuddy and Fader for your loss. It's really an unimaginable tragedy. We did have a chance to review the resolution. We worked with John and Robin in the planning office, and I don't think we have any other additional comments at this time, but I know Volta greatly appreciates the time and the effort over the last 6 months or so to get this project in motion, and we look forward to continuing to work with you.
We
Wonderful.
look forward to seeing it here in the mall.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, yes.
Excellent. Thank you for your work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do want to, we're going to make a few edits here. This is not from the Veterans Advisory Committee.
No, it's not.
So our apologies and
Jim.
thanks to the Veterans Advisory Committee, though, for their
Yes.
continued
Chair-
work.
Mr. Mecca, could you please come up to the podium for a second?
It's like being called to the principal's office.
That's it. Can you
You look scared for a minute.
Can
You're
you
like,
just explain to us the whole genesis of this idea for the Korean War?
Genesis of this idea that we came up with is that these heroes are in their high 80s.
But from whom? I understand. I understand that why we're
okay.
recognizing them. So where did this whole
It originated in my combat group meeting. We meet in Yonkers every week. It was brought up, and one step led to another. Okay, and I went to Chase Edwards,
Chet Edwards.
Dan Morea, who was the assistant director in Yonkers, and we met in Ron Tochi's office. Ron wasn't there. Another guy by the name of Chase, who was a Korean War vet, and a good buddy of mine, Randy Jorgensen, who received 3 Purple Hearts in Korea. And a representative from Shelley Meyer's office was there, and we decided that we wanted to do this. And we were working on a date. And as we know, we can't do it in the summertime because Albany, the Assembly, and the Senate does not meet then. So we come up with a date which is April 26th, which is the date that the peace talks began. It's a month after Vietnam Appreciation Day. It's a month before Memorial Day. And what we want to do is have the Korean War veterans who are able to go up to Albany and be honored. I was asked to go on Vietnam Appreciation Day with 8 or 9 other Vietnam vets when they made Vietnam Appreciation Day on March 29th. We do understand that a lot of the Korean war veterans will not be able to make it. They can't go from Long Island, even here, Brooklyn or whatever. So we want each community to do this. So we want the help of all the communities. We want the help of the politicians. like yourselves to get this done before it's too late. You know, these men fought in a forgotten war. They came after World War II. Okay, 6 years after World War II. They were forgotten. They came before Vietnam, which every day Vietnam was on TV. You know, and I'm sure they feel hurt, and I know they do. So that's why we want to do it. So basically started at a combat group meeting in Yonkers, and it's worked its way up. And we're looking to do this on April 26th, and I have no doubt with the help of you, the citizens, the other veterans, and all communities, we will have these men honored on that date.
So this is being sponsored per se by Westchester County veterans through Ron Tochi's office?
No, I wouldn't say Westchester County. I would just say just veterans in general.
No, I understand, but this bill or this idea and the conversations generated down in Ron's office, even though he wasn't there.
No. This idea was generated in a combat group meeting I attend every week in Yonkers.
And
the therapy station.
What is that combat group? I just want to get that for the.
There's just a group of 15 or 20 of us that meet with a therapist in Yonkers through the VA. It did not come from Westchester or Ron Tochi.
No, that's fine. VA Combat Veterans Group.
Correct, and that's where it came from. About 3 months ago, I brought it up, and our therapist ran with the ball. Us guys ran with the ball, but we did meet 2 weeks ago in White Plains to discuss it at Ron Tochi's office, who was not there.
Right.
So that's where the idea came from, and
I know Chet Edwards is very involved with the Hudson Valley Honor Flight.
He's very involved with that. We speak. He has. I talked to him the other day about going to the wake today. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he has COVID, so he could not be there, and he asked me to give my regards to the family and the fellow veterans. But that's what we're doing. That's what the idea came from, in a group of 15, basically 15, 20 combat Vietnam veterans and 2 Korean War veterans.
Good. Thank you so much for the
Thank you once again for your help.
He's been saying April 26th. It's April 29th.
Right, we're going to have to change
we
can amend it. We're going to have to make a few amendments to it.
Right.
Gentlemen, do you want to take the podium? I mean, we're not trying to... Do you have members of our Veterans Advisory Committee? Thank you, Carl. Major Sheridan.
Major. The Korean War Veterans Armistice Day is July 27th.
But they began the talks on April 26th. That's right, Jim?
Yeah. The reason they were looking for something similar to the Vietnam Veterans Day that's recognized at the Assembly and Senate.
Yeah, that Senator Murphy started.
Senator Terrence Murphy started.
Does New York State have any proposals to do so?
Well, no. That's I think what they're asking for us. I think what the point is to be that catalyst. Because right now, and they can't do it in July because the state legislature is not in session. So they can't do it in July, and so the April date seems symbolic because it's when they began the peace talks. So it doesn't overshadow Vietnam, the Vietnam Memorial Day, Vietnam Veterans Recognition event that the state still carries out, started by, again, Senator Murphy. And so it's between Memorial Day, so it's between that and Memorial Day.
We've not mentioned it at our Veterans Advisory Council. We haven't taken any consideration of it prior to this evening.
Yeah, I just want to say that when I saw the agenda, I went to Ed and Mike that this did not come out of the advisory.
I hadn't seen the wording on it, but Jim is actually a member. Actually, he was a member of the Jefferson Village Veterans group as well. So
that's a club.
No, I understand.
We understand,
and we, I think as board members, we'll read the resolution, take a vote, and see, if everyone agrees to move it forward. There is nothing in stone yet, and it's something that's going to come back.
This started down county, it didn't start at JV.
No, I understand. But it was brought to one of our meetings 3 weeks ago, I believe.
Oh, over there.
No, over
No,
here.
here. They did. They
They
did bring
came.
it
They
to-
came
yeah,
here
they
and
came
brought
asked
it,
for
and it was read in and asked for consideration.
I mean, I don't think the premise of it is, I think, honorable. I think we have
Yeah,
to
I think we
recognize
just
the Korean,
we misrepped on where it came from.
the Korean War.
Oh, we're not going to discount the Korean
The
War.
Korean
Absolutely
War
not.
vets. You know, and I the dilemma that's before us regarding the date is more about mirroring what was done for the Vietnam vets, and that time, that box of time, is difficult because they're only in session January through June. So that's why they, I think, creatively came up with this 26th date of April, so that this way it's a time that, and at the end of the day, the state legislature still has to approve it, right? Which they're not in session right now anyway. But I think it's still I think for local Korean War vets, it would still be a symbolic gesture by the town to recognize them. And then next year, I think that maybe when session begins, we can work with the chairs of the veterans committees in both the Senate and the Assembly to come up with work with them to come up with a date and some legislation.
Yeah, if I'm reading this right, Jim is asking this town to take where other towns have to do the similar thing. If I'm
Or the state has to have.
I think no. I think the
but
point
I
of the
think he's going to
resolution.
each
The point of the resolution is to request state legislation, as was done previously with Senator Murphy, that establishes the Vietnam Veterans Day. Also recognized the VVA as a benevolent order for the first time in the state's history. From that, we created this Vietnam Veterans Day event in the Capitol. I know you were there. Yep, you came to the inaugural, which they've continued to carry on.
Yeah.
And so I think this just starts that conversation, is what I think Jim's trying to do.
Yeah, what I'm saying is Jim has come to our town. Are they doing it at all towns, all over, in the county?
We have told, when I met 2 weeks ago, last week, with the members of that I mentioned before, that's what we're trying to do.
Trying to branch out and get all the other municipalities
So
on board.
I came, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, to you guys. You guys always supported anything I ever did. When I was in charge of Jefferson Village, you guys were right there. I mean, it was just fantastic. You treat the veterans here tremendously, and that's what we're branching out. We want, like I said, every community, every politician to get behind this. When I went up on March 29th, Vietnam Appreciation Day, and they passed it unanimously, which is probably the first time in history that they passed something unanimously. So this is for these Korean War vets. Like I said, they're in the high 80s, they're in their 90s.
I think we're all in agreement on it.
Yeah.
We need to do this for them before it's too late.
I don't think anyone's denying that. I think the issue that we have here is there was a protocol, maybe a bit of a protocol
Snafu.
Snafu with regards to our own Veterans Advisory Committee.
Is there any draft legislation with any of the state legislators to effectuate this? And is that the right place to go?
That would be the right place to go. Also important to note, just procedurally, Major, that all the legislators have to reintroduce their legislation in January this coming January, because it's a new session since it's their 2 years. So,
I think by Jim coming to us, it just not to toot our horn, but we've been leaders in moving things forward. We lead from the front.
Yeah.
And Carl, I know you were asking if other communities are going to do this. I am sure if they are asked, they will buy in. I cannot, all of our veterans deserve respect. Actually, it's something that the reason we put the veterans parking spots out, because everyone, whether, we had the Purple Heart ones, but every veteran has that risk. And as I've always said, you never know where you're going when you sign the papers. You put on that uniform to defend our flag. You could be, sitting in Hawaii, although that became dangerous in 1941. But you could be on the front line in Afghanistan or wherever the case may be.
I understand. I just wanted to clarify that Jim is reaching out to our town, and they're going to go to the other towns.
Right.
Yeah.
To get them on board also.
Yes.
Yeah, I think and so it's really just an organic grassroots effort to recognize the Korean War vets, and I don't think it's a bad thing for Yorktown to be first.
No.
Quite frankly, I mean, I think to Jim's point, and Carl, and Major Sheridan, how I think beloved the veterans are in our community, and so for us to be the first potentially to move this forward, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Major, the National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day.
Yeah.
Just
July 29th, I believe.
July
27th.
27th.
But the problem with that, from Jim's standpoint, and what they're trying to achieve, though, is the state legislature's not in session then.
Oh, I understand.
See
okay.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they're looking for the state legislature. They want to create a similar recognition by the state legislature where they bring Korean War veterans from all over the state to the Capitol to recognize them. They have never done that.
Oh, so this wouldn't supersede the Armistice Day. This is just just to be recognized. Gotcha.
Yeah,
all right.
It's just them for them to be recognized by the state legislature.
And they can't do anything, like you said, until January, the new session.
Your block is January through June, right?
mhm.
So with Armistice Day being at the end of July, unfortunately,
Falls just a bit short.
It's just timing-wise doesn't work. So based on their research, they found that the peace talks started in April, and that's why they proposed April, which actually works well from the legislative standpoint and their calendar, because they tend to be in session in late April
And it balances out between Vietnam Appreciation Day and
Memorial Day. Right.
March, 1 April, 1 May.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still up to the state legislature, right? So we can say, hey, make it this day, and they say, hey, that's a great idea, but we're going to make it
this day,
and so at least it starts the conversation, right? That's what we're really asking them to do, is start the conversation to come up with a way of formally recognizing our remaining Korean War veterans before it's too late, right? That's really what we're asking them to do.
Exactly.
Point.
Yeah.
And
Get it done and get these men, honored. I think
that's the point.
right, that is, yeah, right. And I think everyone, no, right. But I think that seems to be the point, and I would imagine, that would be a supportive mission by many. Okay.
I will read the resolution.
Yeah, sure. I would just
And
make sure that you...
I'll try to, yes.
Yeah,
I'll make the amendments as I read, and then hopefully we can go from there. Whereas
Here, Ed, read this one. There you go. Proper amendments.
Okay. Whereas the Yorktown Town Board advocates for a Korean War Veterans Appreciation Day, and whereas the Town Board of the Town of Yorktown recognizes the exemplary service of the members of our community who served during the Korean War, and whereas the Town Board of the Town of Yorktown cherishes and honors the service of the brave men and women who defend our freedoms and wish to bestow proper recognition to those who served during the conflict in Korea, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Yorktown requests our state legislators introduce the necessary legislation recognizing April 26, Korean War Veterans Appreciation Day, at the request of the Yorktown Town Board.
Very good. All right.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you making the text larger so I could read it.
I do that for me.
All right. From the Water Department, we're going to request to advertise bid for the purchase of automotive and small engine parts and equipment tools for the Water Department, obviously, and authorize supervisor to sign an agreement with Cortec Inc. to conduct inspection services through the Quinlan water storage tanks. Mr. Rodriguez, was there something else? Anything else that was sent over?
I sent you. Did we do the appointment?
Oh, thank you. We're also going to read in, and I'll send this to the clerk's office, resolve that Diego Jaramillo is hereby appointed to serve as a commissioner on the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term to expire on December 31st, 2026. Diego has been serving as the alternate, and so with the resignation of Rick Romansky, that moves him up to the full commissioner position.
So moved.
Well, hold on one second.
Sorry, this was the IMA.
Resolve that the supervisor is authorized to execute an intermunicipal agreement. We did that one. Did that one. Was there anything else, Adam?
You did Cortec.
Yep.
That's it.
Very good. So, those
So
are the
moved.
resolutions. Make a motion.
So moved.
Ready to Tommy? How about again?
Huh?
Second.
You got cowboat?
Aye.
Wait a second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
You better
Any
speak up, Ed.
opposed?
No.
None. Okay. With that, if there's no further business before the board, we'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Yorktown. Be safe.
I didn't cowboy you that time.